Porphyry's teaching, which originated with Ammonius, who in the 2nd century in Alexandria was a Middle Platonist who was also a member of the Christian catechetical school in Alexandria. Yeah. You may recall from some other context that in 2nd, 3rd century Alexandria there was a Christian academy of sorts devoted to educating not only church people but others as well, pagans, who came for instruction. Instruction in theology, instruction in philosophy, instruction in other things. Alexandria was one of the seats of learning in antiquity. Clement of Alexandria, an early church father, was an earnest advocate of what then they thought of as the liberal arts in that classic tradition. And this school was where it was practiced. Ammonius was part of it. It seems, and you get conflicting reports in the secondary literature, it seems that Ammonius was at one time a student, perhaps a student at the same time as Origen, perhaps also a teacher in that school, in any case at one time a Christian. And that Ammonius later departed from Alexandria and from the Christian faith and continued his teaching, which became the Neoplatonism of Porphyry and Plotinus. So in that sense, Neoplatonism was a continuation of Middle Platonism as it had been filtered through the Alexandrian school and been Christianized in the process. Okay? If you like, Neoplatonism was a Christian heresy. It was a departure from Christianity. But in some ways it was a reversion to pre-Christian Middle Platonism. You get the picture? Okay. And the importance of Neoplatonism is not just in its origin. Its origin is a fascinating thing. We'll come back to the Alexandrian school when we're through with Neoplatonism. But the importance of Neoplatonism is that it provided a philosophical framework that dominated medieval thought until the 11th, 12th century. Continued to be a powerful influence after the Reformation, both in the Renaissance and during the Enlightenment. Went through another resurgence in 19th century Europe. Okay? So the history of Platonism and history continuing really into the 20th century. Tremendously influential. When you read of Platonism in later history, sometimes it's Plato, sometimes it's Neoplatonism. Okay? And you always have to read the context to see which it is. Sometimes it's Plato, sometimes it's Neoplatonism. And the figures influenced by it are innumerable. If you read John Milton, you don't read long in his theology before you discover that he's talking Neoplatonist language. It seems to be Neoplatonic in his kind of Christianity. So very important to watch. Now, what about then the Neoplatonic philosophy? How does it look? And immediately you can begin to see echoes of that old Middle Platonism. Because the Neoplatonists, too, thought of a hierarchy of being with emanations and with a divine trinity. Okay? The top of the hierarchy, the one. I better put it higher up. The one. Okay? Top of the hierarchy. And below the one on the hierarchy, there is nous, if you like, intelligence. Logos. Below intelligence, world soul. There it is, explicitly. Okay? And you see, those are three ingredients already in Plato's Timaeus. How did they get to be a hierarchy with emanations? Because of Middle Platonism. It's Middle Platonism that brought the doctrine of emanation into Neoplatonism. And from world soul, finite souls. And the souls descend into bodies. And so towards the bottom of the hierarchy. This downward movement is emanation. But we mustn't let that give us the impression that the downward movement means that there is a gradually emptying out of the divine being. Far from it. What you have is a parallel movement known as epistrophe. Return. Epistrophe, Greek term, translated conversion, a turning back. So emanation is an outflowing, epistrophe is a turning back. And that Neoplatonic language is very evident in the language of certain kinds of mysticism to this day. The myth of the eternal return, phrases of that sort, you see, Neoplatonic. And inasmuch as everything flows out from and returns to the one, obviously this is a form of monism. A form of pantheism, because the one is the divine being. So see this in the light of the history that goes back to the Eleatics. You remember? Parmenides, the one. Heraclitus, yet everything is changing. The pluralists, many, many different kinds of things. How within the context of the one are you going to explain change and plurality without saying, as the Eleatics did, that they're both sheer illusion? The same story in Plato. You've got the world of change, you've got the world of eternal unchanging form. What's the relationship? However can you describe what it is to participate? Plato couldn't. You see? What's the connection? The answer? Emanation, epistrophe. And so this is the form of Platonism, which was transmitted through the Middle Ages to modern times. Neoplatonism with its doctrine of emanation, drawn from the Neo-Pythagorean tradition through the Middle Platonism. Now, let me pause there for question. Come on. Yeah. This outward movement makes it seem that the one is the efficient cause that's forever pushing birds out of the nest. Okay? Yet at the same time, epistrophe makes it apparent that the one is also the final cause towards which everything is moving. In other words, God is, for the Neoplatonists, material cause, because everything is of the divine, out of the divine being, efficient cause, formal cause, because of the Logos, final cause. And explicitly so, Plotinus cites Aristotle along those lines. Okay. So if the term epistrophe is a little bit amorphous, vague, you can catch anticipations of it in Plato's love for God, love for the good. Okay. In Aristotle's emphasis on wonder, the souls of the stars moved by wonder. Okay. The notion of final causation. Yeah, all of that is being packed into this eternal return. Yeah. Okay. So it's this movement which maintains the balance. Now, what we have to do, therefore, is to trace out what Plotinus has to say about the one, the nous, the world soul, finite souls and bodies, the problem of evil, etc. And you can anticipate what that is going to be like by recognizing here the divided line. Plato's divided line. You see? Superimpose it. Because here in the upper half, you have what is eternal, universal. Here you have what is temporal, particular, changing. Okay. And if you want to raise the epistemological questions, then you have to raise them in terms of a Platonic kind of epistemology. How can there be innate knowledge? Well, by virtue of the fact that the finite soul is a seed of the world soul, itself an emanation from the all-intelligent nous. Hence the possibility of innate knowledge. Hence the importance of dialectic, you're getting it out in the open. So this is a revised version of Platonism. All right, these three hypostases is what Plotinus calls them. Hypostases. Any of you familiar enough with the theological formulation of the doctrine of the Trinity to recognize the word hypostasis? You see, because in the Chalcedonian formulation of the Trinity, later on in the 5th century, we're told there are three hypostases, singular hypostasis, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. To call them three hypostases is the language of Neoplatonism. Three hypostases in one ousia. What's ousia? Being, essence. Three hypostases with one essence. It's the language of Neoplatonism. Hypostasis gets translated in process of translation in the Latin versions persona, hence the English person. But the Latin persona was more of a role, a mask that the actor wore to identify his role, who he was. You see. But in translation, it's become three persons in one being. The language of the creed is hypostasis and ousia. So in a very real sense, the Trinitarian formulation made use of vocabulary, to some extent ideas, drawn from Middle Platonism, the vocabulary later from Neoplatonism. Yes. Yes, in a certain sense. The one is perfect unity. Now, Aristotle stressed perfect actuality. Plotinus stresses perfect unity, influence of Parmenides. Why unity? Because unity and identity are one and the same thing. You only have identity if you have unity. You see. If you are multiple schizophrenic with 6 different personalities, you see, if there is an I and a thou within you, in some sense, then you don't have unity, absolute unity. So in stressing the one, what Plotinus is trying to say is that this is the most real kind of being, the most complete kind of being, the perfection of being, of beauty itself, and is beyond anything in particular that we can say about it. Beyond definition. Now, why beyond definition? Because to define something is to mark it off from something else. But if the one is the all-inclusive one, there isn't something else to define it off from. Do you get it? And so you have to think of the one as beyond anything we can predicate of God. In addition, all of the predicates we might come up with, all of the attributes, are attributes we draw from our knowledge of finite things and apply them to God. They are distinguishing marks of things applied to God. But God isn't distinguished from anything else. God is the all-inclusive one. So in that sense, God is beyond all predication. Moreover, God is beyond all thought, his own thought, in the sense that if God thought about things, there would be things distinct from God for God to think, and God would not be the one. Moreover, if God thought just his own thoughts, God would be both object and subject of thought, and there would be a distinction within God, and he wouldn't be absolutely one. Okay? So in that sense, God is beyond our thought and is beyond thinking. Okay. Now, how then can you ask questions about the one? I'm not putting you down for asking questions, but how? Barry, you were allowed to ask something. Would you wave your hand? No, it wasn't Barry, it was, yeah, Chris.
I was just wondering what the nature of Usia was, I think in essence of how it comes together. I guess that question raised my mind.
Yeah.
You said there was no essence of mind, and you went down a hierarchy.
Yeah, yeah.
So what was it separated? There's not three in the model.
Yeah, asking this of the Christian Trinity or of Neoplatonism.
I was wondering, I guess you both asked
Yeah.
the first
In talking, yeah, well, let me respond with regards to the Trinity first, and then move back to where we were. As far as the Trinity, the way ousia is used, it refers to the essential nature of God, with the essential attributes. So we speak of the three persons as sharing all the same attributes. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are all omniscient, omnipotent, eternal, etc., etc., etc. So essence refers to essential attributes, the same nature. But what can ousia, being, mean in Neoplatonism? You see? And there you have the very interesting question, because all you can say is that being itself, being qua being, remember, Chris, the Aristotelian phrase? Being qua being, is one, it's an all-inclusive concept, so you can't mark it off from any other concept. In that sense, being is indefinable. It is known immediately, you see? Known immediately in the sense that you recognize being, even though you can't describe it, define it. What is it that all being has in common? It! You see, to say anything more is to delineate being from being. Now, that's not a very helpful answer, but it's as Neoplatonic as I can get. Okay. In fact, you find some cases where Plotinus says actually the one is beyond being. The one is beyond being. Because so often we use the word being to distinguish a being from another being, or being from becoming. You see? And he doesn't want to do any of that, if being is all-inclusive, beyond being. And inasmuch as we ascribe certain attributes to God, there are times when he says being is beyond God, beyond goodness. You see? And we're trying to distinguish one thing from another. So beyond all mental distinction. You remember back in Anaximander? Do you remember Anaximander? Thales, Anaximander, Anaximenes? Remember? Back in Anaximander, the basic nature of being was labeled as a pyrrhon. What does a pyrrhon mean? The unlimited, the indefinable. You see? It sounds like that's feeding into the notion of the one. The apeiron, the indefinable. Known only, therefore, by the via negativa. What's the via negativa? The negative way. Yeah, the negative way. You use negative terms in speaking. God is not finite. The one is not multiple. It's not this, it's not that, it's not the other. It's beyond anything we can say. Because you can't help but notice how traditional Christian vocabulary about God includes a lot of via negativa. Immortal, invisible. Immortal, invisible. You want me to sing it? Okay, that's about as far as we can go then on the one. Wait a minute, what's the time? I've got another 3 or 4 minutes. What about the nous? Reason, intelligence. The intelligible principle. Well, you see, this is, as it were, the mind flowing out from God, from the one. Now, in this emanation, reason, thought, you can speak as if the divine being is thinking. Thinking its own thoughts, like Aristotle's unmoved mover. Thinking on its own thoughts, because the forms are in the mind of the likeness, in the mind of the nous, divine intelligence. This is the highest definable emanation of the divine being. It's here that we are able to speak of the divine being as altogether wise, altogether good, altogether beautiful, because it's the realm of ideals, the forms, differentiated in the mind of God. And the will soul, this is the dynamic, life-giving, energizing force that permeates finite things, orders them, conserves them, guides them. If you like to speak more precisely, the efficient cause in the divine being, the efficient cause of nature is the will soul. The formal cause is the nous. The final cause and the material cause, both one. Because will soul is the dynamic agent in the process. This comes closest to efficient cause. So I take it that the role of nous and will soul are much easier to get a handle on. We've met those in Plato and others. It's the nature of the one that's the teaser that you have to ponder a while.